Hey guys, what's going on? This is Spiguyver Backpacking. I'm Spiguyver, and I'm out here again for another stove test. This time, it is the Batchstovez IS for Integrated Stand 2.0. So this is a cool little stove I got not too long ago. Reason I went with it is because of how stable it is. I liked the design of it. I've liked everything I've gotten from Sam at Batchstovez. He's now selling pretty much directly through Dutchware gear, and that's about it. It's got the fiberglass wicking around the side, and it's got the screw top. So it's a lot like a mini bowl design, mini atomic to some extent, or my DIY mini atomic, but it has the integrated pot stand, which makes it pretty cool. This one happens to weigh 42.3 grams, so not the lightest stove out there, but very, very stable. And let's figure out just how well it performs. So let's go. My apologies tonight. I am fighting a cold. Been fighting it all week long. All right, so I have put the fuel in there, but I normally measure out 0.75 ounce weighed. So this time I weighed out 0.7, put it in there, and I've got 0.05 right here. And this is what I'm going to use to wet the wick to get this thing going, so that I'm still keeping it to that 1 ounce that we've done with all of the stoves. So I'm just going to use this to wet that. If some of it gets onto this aluminum, that's fine. I'm just going to put the last couple drops right up on the top. And I've got the water set up, sitting right at 60 degrees right now. So I'm going to light this. I'm going to go ahead and set this on. Hit start. We'll see what it does. Here is the flame pattern for this stove. All right, we're approaching 200 degrees, just over 4 minutes. Coming up pretty good. A lot of steam coming out of that pot. .209 at 436. So that's 436 for a boil. Let's see what the burnout is. So that was burnout at 820. Kind of caught me off guard because it went through the fuel a lot quicker than I expected. So 820 was burnout. All right, so I've got it fueled up again. I've got 12 ounces of 61 degree water in this pot. Light it up. Go ahead and put this on here. Hit start. We'll see how this one boils. All right, we just passed 200 at 4 minutes and 35 seconds. So we're getting close. .209 at 458. 209, 458, and a good boil. Flames are definitely getting smaller. And there they go. And there's burnout at 851. So 851 burnout. Okay, for the last test, I've got the Foster's pot filled up with 12 ounces of water, sitting at 58 degrees, so a little bit colder. As it's been sitting out here, it started to drop a little bit. I've got the stove fueled up, ready to go. This one's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and get it positioned on here now so I don't have to worry about it when it's going. Make sure all these hot stands are locked where they need to be. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, get this thing started. Actually, let me talk about the last one. So on the last one, I started it, realized I did not zero out the timer. So I stopped it, blew it out, dumped the fuel out, lit it, burned off all the vapors that were in there, let it cool, redid the water, and started over from scratch. So just so you know, full disclosure, that's what happened there. All right, so this one is started. I'm gonna go ahead, hit start, and we'll see how it does on this one. Much smaller pot. Seems right now that it's been doing better on the wider pot. So we'll see. So we just passed 200 degrees right at about 445. Continuing to climb. And as I suspected, this is going to be the slowest of the three. And there's the boil right at 512. 512, boiling water. Okay, so we're passing 820, which is where the 700 burned out. The flame pattern is definitely smaller. Dying down. I'm gonna call that burnout at 8:41. 8 minutes, 41 second burnout. All right, so there was the test for the IS 2.0 from Batchstovez. Cool little stove, a little bit heavier than some of the other ones out there. 42.3 grams. It's quite a bit heavier than, say, the Fancy Feast. Does have an integrated pot stand, which is nice. It is very stable because of the legs that stick out on the bottom. No problem with knocking this one over, at least from my experience. So the 700 was the best performer with this stove. It does centralize, like that mini atomic. It comes up and hits to a point, but it spreads out so much that the 700 was able to take advantage of that, boiling the 12 ounces in 4 minutes and 36 seconds. Then came the 700, or the 550, which is just a little bit more narrow of a base, and that one was 4 minutes and 58 seconds. And then finally the Foster's pot. Now initially I thought maybe the Foster's pot was going to do really well because that narrow flame pattern came up into this dome at the bottom and really hung out in there and didn't spill out and come up the sides all that much. But at the end, 5 minutes and 12 seconds for that one. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard? Here's our current leaderboard. Nothing at the top has changed. Second place for the fastest boil is that Batchstovez, the IS 2.0, just 1 second slower than the Spiguyver stove, but with a different pot. Now, because it was so fast, it does come at a price with this stove, and for longest burn time, it falls to the very bottom of the chart, and for the fuel used, it also used the most, so it falls to the bottom of that chart as well. So while it burns fast, it burns hot. So you'll get a fast boil, but don't expect it to last a long time. All right, so the Batchstovez IS 2.0 was a good stove. It's a good test. And I'll tell you what, I've had this one out on a couple of trips. I really like it. It's nice and stable. Next week, come back where we will be testing the Venom stove. Now this is a really cool stove. So it looks a lot like a Fancy Feast until you notice that you can see through it. It is just a ring with insulation in there. Pretty cool. And we'll be testing this one out next week. So come back. Don't miss it. This is coming up next week. I'll see you guys down the trail.